Hello everyone, Ryan here. So instead of reviewing these books separately, I decided to just review them in the same video, mostly because they do happen to be of the same genre, self-help genre. Uh, so yeah, I'll just get right into it here. Of course, first one I had read recently, Quiet Power, Secret Strengths of Introverts by Susan Cain. And even though this book is intended more for teenagers and also preteens, I guess you could say, I did really enjoy it. I will say that I do wish this book existed when I was a teenager, because I believe I mentioned before the fact that I consider myself to be pretty introverted, which I don't know if most bookworms are introverted. I find that usually tends to be the case. But anyways, as for me, I'm definitely introverted, and I was even more so as a teenager. And yeah, I remember just there being days when it just felt like I really couldn't get along with anyone else because the majority of my classmates were very extroverted. I mean, they ran the gamut of being mildly extroverted all the way to just extremely intensely super introverted. I mean, super extroverted, very outgoing. And so yeah, I mean, if a book like this existed back then when I was a teenager, I think it definitely would have helped me to come out of my shell a lot sooner. But at the same time, reading this book, it did help me to realize that, there's a time and place for each introvert to come out of their shell. In other words, it's not necessarily always a good idea to force an introvert to turn into an extrovert, because each individual is different, and we all essentially have to learn to come out of our shells in our own way, within our own due time. So, and that's the way I've always felt. I believe that's really how I felt when I was a teenager. It took me a pretty long time to find the words to express that. But again, yeah, if this book had existed, it definitely would have helped me along. And so I would definitely say that if you are an introverted teenager or preteen, I highly recommend reading this book. Or if you happen to have a son or daughter, or just a relative who happens to be an introverted teenager or preteen, I would highly recommend reading this book, and also maybe recommending that they read it as well. Yeah, just a lot of really great tips in here. Granted, I could delve deeper into exactly what is discussed in here, but I kind of feel like that would defeat the purpose of reading it. I mean, I will say that there are a lot of real life examples given throughout, which is definitely helps a reader imagine, being in certain situations. But yeah, it's definitely worth reading. I do give it 5 stars, definitely 5 stars. And of course, the other one I read was The Urban Monk by Pedram Shojai, OMD. He also happens to be the creator of well.org. And this one is geared more towards adults, but I guess it essentially could work for pretty much anyone. It's pretty much like your basic self-help book, except with a very Eastern twist to it, Eastern philosophical. You would say it's I guess you could say, slightly mystical twist to it. Of course, the rest of the title is Eastern Wisdom and Modern Hacks to Stop Time and Find Success, Happiness, and Peace. One of the things I do like that the author stresses is, in fact, the importance of meditation, regular meditation, and also the fact that, you don't have to become a monk, you don't have to move to a monastery in order to see, to really, to cultivate the benefits of regular meditation, because it is possible to live within modern Western society and still find the time to meditate. I like that one example he gives is that, say, anytime you happen to be waiting in line at a checkout at the grocery store, and instead of complaining that the person ahead of you is really taking their time to count their money out, or whatever it is that they're doing to hold up the line, instead of complaining about it, one thing that is good to try would be, in that moment in fact would be the perfect opportunity to practice meditation, which would simply involve taking a couple of breaths, breathing in, breathing out, counting your breath, realizing that, while the moment that you happen to be in may be a particularly frustrating moment, it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to completely ruin the rest of your day, which is true, which has always been true. And that's another thing I like that the author stresses, the fact that no matter what frustrating situation we happen to find ourselves in, we don't have to allow it to ruin our day. We don't have to allow it to affect us so deeply, and which too often, I've noticed, and I think a lot of other people too, too often we do allow, the small stuff to really dig into us and really gnaw at us, and essentially affect our overall mood, and which that's not a good thing. So, and there's a lot of other really helpful steps such as that throughout this book. Another thing that I like is that the author he doesn't speak down to the reader, or rather, there's chapters in which he actually just comes out and like he flat out says, not to get caught up in worrying about shit, and actually uses the word shit, and which, I don't know, to me, I think maybe some people might be offended by his choice of words, but to me it makes sense, because he's trying to be able to speak in a way that the average frustrated person living within Western society can relate to, and it makes sense. It's to me it was refreshing to read something, especially a self-help book, that doesn't get bogged down in flowery language, and which there's a time and a place for that, I feel, but so obviously ultimately I do give this 5 stars. I highly recommend it if you want to read a self-help book that just tells it like it is, and at the same time offers really helpful tips, really helpful insights, and also stresses the importance of things like meditation, regular exercise, other similar stuff like that. And also too, if you happen to be into anything that has any kind of Eastern twist to it, Eastern wisdom, anything that you like. If you like books that have a little bit of Buddhism and Hinduism, spirituality, then you probably like this book as well. But also too, I say even if you're not into Buddhism, Hinduism, spirituality, I still recommend reading this because there's still a lot of helpful stuff to be found in here. So again, 5 stars. Definitely both of these, I do give both 5 stars. So that'll do it for my review of both of these, The Upper Monk and Quiet Power. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Till next time, keep it real, keep on rocking, and peace.